Hello, this BTEC Sport and Exercise Science video is for Unit 2 Functional Anatomy. We're looking at the skeletal system. Specifically, we're looking at D5, structure of a synovial joint. So a previous video recognised the three classifications of joints: fibrous, cartilaginous and synovial. This video is just going to look at the structures, the components that make up a typical synovial joint. The next video is going to look at the 6 types of synovial joint, but let's just look at the bits that make up a synovial joint. First of all, have a look at some examples. So this left-hand image is a hip joint. So we've got the 2 bones articulating at the hip joint, the femur and the ischium of the pelvis, so the pelvic bone there, the socket and the ball of the femoral head. Remember, this is a condyle and this is a fossa, a depression. This is a large round bump of a bone and it makes up a joint. Then we've got the same sorts of components. When we look at each of the next sort of 3 examples, you'll see the same components. We've got ligaments to stabilize the joint. We've got a synovial membrane lining the capsule. We've got synovial fluid lubricating the joint. We've got an outer fibrous layer of the joint, the joint capsule. We've got articular cartilage on the ends of the bones to protect them from friction and wearing and tearing. And this is quite likely something like actually it looks like it's fat. There's no bursa shown on here, but there is over here. So a bursa is a little sac that contains synovial fluid. It doesn't lubricate, but it cushions and pads and protects. Again, this is the same classification of joint. This is a knee joint. It's also a synovial joint, but have a look, we've got the same sorts of information. We've got the sort of pinky purpley structure is a joint capsule around the outside. We've got the red synovial membrane lining that joint capsule. We've got articular cartilage on the ends of the bones to protect them. We've got synovial fluid released by the synovial membrane. And we've got ligaments stabilizing our knee joint. 2 more examples for you. The shoulder joint, a ball and socket joint. Okay, so here's the condyle, the big round end of the bone. The socket over here on the scapula is a fossa, so we've got a condyle and a fossa making up a joint. This is a shallower socket. If I go back, the hip is typically a deeper socket, which makes it a bit more stable. The shoulder is a more shallow joint. You can see there's not a lot of depth to that at all. And this ball, this joint, has to sit in that shallow socket and be stable. And the reason how we try to make it stable is we've got lots of ligaments and we've got lots of muscles holding that bone into that shallow socket. So again, the same characteristics. We've got bones to make the joint. We've got an articular capsule, a joint capsule around the outside. We've got a bursa that is a sac containing synovial fluid, which helps cushion and reduce friction to some degree. We've got articular cartilage on the ends of the bones. We've got synovial fluid in the joint itself to lubricate the joint. And finally, over here, a synovial elbow joint. So our knee and our elbow are hinge joints. And you can see we've got the same characteristics. There's not as many labels, but it is the same. So hopefully I've made my point. All synovial joints are made up of the same structures, but not necessarily are in the same shape. So the bones of the elbow are different shape to the bones of the hip, are different shape to the bones of our wrist. What you need to know is the structure and function of each of those component parts that I identified. So you're going to practice loads and loads in lessons, drawing a typical synovial joint, labeling it, and being able to either write or tell somebody else what is it structured like and what job does it do. What is it structured like, what job does it do? And these phrases are the ones I want you to learn. So the joint capsule, the outer layer, this sort of greyish outer layer there, is dense connective tissue, so it's fibrous tissue that stabilizes the joint and contains the joint. So all the other bits are within that joint capsule. The articular cartilage on the ends of our bones, it's the bluey colour here on the ends of the bones, is hyaline. So the type of cartilage it is hyaline cartilage. This articular word describes where it is. It's at the ends of the bones at the joint, and this is the type of cartilage. It's called hyaline cartilage. And I want you to learn that it's smooth and slippery because its job is to reduce friction and protect the bones. So actually add there to your notes, it protects the bones and stops the bones from wearing on each other. The synovial membrane, so this sort of dark green layer, you can see that it sort of lines the inside of the joint capsule. This is the synovial membrane. It lines the joint capsule and its job is to release and produce synovial fluid into the joint. And we can see the synovial fluid is this sort of bluey greeny colour. So what is it? It's a thick, oily fluid. Because it's like a hinge of a door that squeaks. We oil it to make it move more easily. So we've got this synovial fluid in our joints to lubricate the joints to make them move smoothly and easily. Also, it contains nutrients, so things that it gives to the cartilage to keep the cartilage thick and healthy. If our cartilage wears away, we can really suffer from arthritis because the damaged cartilage means that the bone might be rubbing on the bone. It's really sore and unpleasant. So we want to keep that cartilage thick and healthy, and synovial fluid helps achieve that. We've got ligaments. So again, it looks a bit like the joint capsule, but we've got ligaments that are these straps, these tough, fibrous, but slightly flexible cords. And they attach the bone above the joint to the bone below the joint. So they attach the bones together. They connect bones. I think the next little video is just on ligaments, actually. We'll go into a bit more detail. But these are tough, fibrous, but flexible cords that connect bones and stabilize the joint. Lastly, bursa. So it's not very distinct, but a bursa is this. Let me just go back, actually. I want to show you. This is the bursa. It looks like a little blob because it is a little sac of synovial fluid. It doesn't lubricate the joint in the same way that this other loose synovial fluid does. It creates a little pad, a little cushion between two structures that might rub past each other. So when our knee moves a lot, if this was a knee joint, if there was a little bursa there would be a lot of movement and rubbing against the structures. So this bursa is a protective cushion to prevent friction. Let's have a look at a couple of examples of exam questions then. Synovial fluid is found in a synovial joint, so it gives you that information, but it wants you to say, what's one function of synovial fluid? What job does it do? For 2 marks. So you've got to give a little bit of detail. Now let's look at how it answers. The function of synovial fluid is to reduce friction and or allow smooth movement by lubricating the joint. So you need to earn those 2 marks by saying what's the function and how it achieves that. Have a look at this next question too. So look again, what it does and how it achieves it. Same sort of question structure actually. Describe the function of articular cartilage for 2 marks. Answer being, the function of articular cartilage is to prevent bone damage, prevent wear and tear, or prevent friction between bones. And the way it does it is by providing smooth, lubricated surface to absorb impact. So again, it asks you, what does it do? What's its job? How does it achieve it? For 2 marks. I think I've got one more. Here we go. Describe the function of a bursa for 2 marks. Answer being, a bursa is a fluid-filled sac, so a synovial fluid-filled sac, which helps to reduce friction within the joint or provides a cushion between bones. So what is it? It's structured like this, and this is the job it does. So what does it do and how does it do it? The final question I've got for you is slightly different in that it gives you a picture. It's labelled some aspects of it itself, and it wants you to earn your 3 marks by identifying what the name of the 3 missing joint structures are. So A, B and C. Now actually I think this is quite a terrible diagram because A I think's okay, you can figure it out. B I think's okay, I think you can figure that out. C is a little bit ambiguous. It's unclear really whether it's ligament or articular capsule. I'd say it's a ligament. Mark scheme is here. So A is synovial fluid inside the joint. B is articular cartilage on the ends of the bones, and C is a ligament. And I suspect a lot of students in the exam may have also put articular capsule or joint capsule, because I don't think that's a brilliant diagram, but it just shows you how you might get asked questions. So you need to know the structure and function of these parts of a typical synovial joint.